Life is made up of so many moments, big and small.
Hey, Dad, it's your turn.
Sometimes the best memories are just time well spent together. Only time will tell what our most cherished moments will be. Montana Moments. Celebrate what matters.
Well, welcome to episode number 81, according to Flint, the podcast. And I just thought of this as I started talking. I think technically, as far as world champions, bull riders, our first repeat offender. You're our first double up.
That's
One and
nice.
only Cooper Todd Davis with 3 Ds in that in that email. We're getting to a point, and especially in our world, our Western sports world of podcasts, you should have one, Coop. Really, we all we're kind of fighting for the same guest, so you got to circle back and catch up with each other once in a while, right?
Yeah, well, and to be honest, this is about the second podcast I've ever done. So between you and Matt, so yeah, we're keeping it in the loop pretty tight right here for me.
Oh yeah, but when good things happen and big things happen, and the shift in seasons, all of it, updates are good. So speaking of updates, first of all, Mac, your son Mac, how old is he now?
He's 8. Yeah,
I can't believe that. All right, how about a football season update?
Yeah.
I know I watched some highlights on Facebook. How did it end up? Is he still going? What's up? Give us an update.
yeah. So they're done with football now, but for the longest time, he thought he was Ray Lewis out there, 50 pounds, and he was running around, giving them everything he had. And you always enjoy seeing your kids do good at stuff, but you enjoy seeing them love it. And I think football is like his sport right now. That's what he loves the most.
Well, see, if I tell people all the time, if I'm driving down the road and there's a rodeo or bull riding here and a football game here, you know where I'm going.
Oh, I'm going to football.
I'm going to football. Yeah. We don't talk about it much. I know you were a good football player. Do you have that passion for football? Because I do.
I do. Yeah. And like football was probably my favorite sport growing up, but I knew I wasn't going to have the size to really go and do anything with it. So what do? You go be a bull rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, anytime I'm around a football game, like it always brings those feelings back, wishing that, well, maybe I should have played another year, but yeah, I love football.
What'd you play? And how? Okay, senior in high school, setting the scene. What was your height and weight listed height and weight, and what position or positions did you play?
5'9", 155, and I played middle linebacker, I played fullback, and I played corner. And every now and then I'd go to wide receiver. So I
fast.
played.
You're fast.
Yeah. I ran a 4.5, high 4.5 40. So it's pretty quick.
5'9", 140. So I was lighter. I was ahead of you on being lighter. 5'9", 140, wide receiver, free safety, kicker, punter.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny though, because look, we could talk about this, but I have found I have trouble enjoying things. People, that's hard for people to believe, but my mind doesn't always shut off, and I'm kind of a stressful person in what I'm doing.
Yep.
I have this peaceful place. I go to football games at Montana State, and they're really good right now. They have a really intimate stadium, 23,000 people, and I get a sideline pass. When I step down in that stadium, that's my happy place. Like my mind completely is just in the moment. That's my one place that I can find.
No, I get it.
Yeah. Good for Mac. Is Mac fast?
He's not as fast as me. No, not yet. But he's getting there. He's just now 8. So
yeah. Well, let him know. Tell him good job. Tell him I said.
I'll do it.
Hey, and I think, sometimes I can look at guys like bull riders and they played other sports. I've always said, and I've never hidden how I feel about it. I always think people who excelled in other sports have a little bit of an advantage on how to train, how to recover, how to win. Jess Lockwood was a state champion. We could, you can list them. What should guys in bull riding, how long should guys have? I feel like now this is as we record this weekend, UTB season kicks off. Tucson's coming. There hasn't been a lot of a break. Then they'll get a little one again. Is it enough? What should guys be doing right now to feel better after teams?
For me, we've always had that 2 or 3 month break after the finals, and then you'd have November to January to kind of get your mind and your body back into shape where you thought it needed to be. But for right now, these guys, their turnaround time is so quick. So if they had any ailments coming into the finals, there's a good chance they're going to come in the first part of the season still hurt. And that was always the biggest thing for me. If I didn't feel like I was 100%, or if I didn't feel like I could show up and win, you guys would always pick on me, or not necessarily you, but
Yeah.
I would get picked on, that, well, he just didn't want to be here this weekend. No, I didn't feel like I was 100%, and the longevity of it to me was always where the money was at. So, you've got to take time to take care of your body, the recoup part, ice baths. I'm a big believer in that, and more or less stretching at this time of year than I am, weightlifting and trying to get strong.
Yeah. Where's Coop this weekend? And we'd always go, hurt.
Yeah.
But if, I think professional athletes in other sports, there's always this comparison where, Cowboys are way tougher. They compete hurt. Look at these pussies over here. Yeah. For one, if you're on a team, it's different. And we'll get to team stuff, team bull riding. If you're, that quarterback's out with a sprained thumb. Well, he's a quarterback. He throws the ball. Yeah. And the Cowboys are way tougher. I've always said Cowboys are tough out of necessity.
Yep.
Because you have to go because you don't have a contract, right?
Yep. You don't get paid unless you show up. To me, the one thing that I would always say, like if I had a concussion or if I seen stars like the weekend before, a lot of guys, they'd sit there and lie to Tandy and Dave and all them and say, no, I'm fine. But to me, like that was always the most important thing to me because, brain injuries, that's a big part of the sport, and that's something that's overlooked a lot. So the sport's headed in the right direction as far as guys taking care of their body. The younger generation, I feel like, is really handling it more as a professional athlete than, the guys that used to just throw the gear bag in the truck and get a concussion, get on the next day. But yeah, I mean, I think it's headed the right direction, but we don't get paid unless we show up. This team thing, though, it's changed that, like we're able to take care of our body. Our teams demand that of us, like, hey, let us know if you have anything that's ailing you. And because, the finals, that's where we need you the most. So let's make sure that we're all healthy getting to that.
That's and it just happened to be on your team in my discussions with Jerome Davis, coach of the Carolina team. He said his biggest obstacle, and I'll pick the one he talked about, his biggest obstacle with Dalen Swearingen, who's a world champ, is I'm fine. That's Dalen, and that's about all he says in some, for a while till he's in certain situations. But he said guys like Dalen think they're being tough and think they're doing themselves good, but pretty soon he wasn't fine. And then he had a real injury. Then he hurt the team. Then he's out longer than he should have been if he'd have taken the time off. Yep. So when it affects the rest of the team, that's a whole different thing, isn't it?
It is, and that's Dalen was our key guy that we needed for a lefty. He's the guy that we could depend on last year, and this year we were leaning on him hard, and I think he knew that, didn't want to let anybody down. Well, whenever you end up hurting yourself more than what, a couple of weeks could have been, take yourself out all season, it really does hurt us long term. But it wasn't out of anything other than Dalen not wanting to let us down. He's such a nice guy. But yeah, that's a learning curve that we've all got to deal with teams.
Yeah. And that is different. And I'd listen as I was doing TV, and towards the end of the season, the last couple of weekends, it started to be you guys. The one thing is you had a lot of guys that could step in, and you guys would get, in a sense, benched or sit out. I also look at things from a production standpoint and what we're selling to the people buying tickets. They didn't get to see Sage Kimzey and Cooper Davis, but in the team aspect of it, you kind of conceded the fact we're not going to get the bye on the first weekend anyway. Let's let some other guys get some outs. Let us rest. Ultimately, if we talk about this is a team deal like other team sports, that's what they do too.
Yeah, I mean, you think about a preseason football game, you're not going to play Tom Brady whenever it doesn't matter. You're going to play the guys that you want to see what they have and see if they can fill the shoes one day. And that's kind of what we did the later on in the season. And until there's enough weight on the regular season, then I think that you're going to see that a lot going forward.
That's going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how, but they said there are going to be some changes because there's a regular season, but ultimately, yes, you are seeded, but anybody can win. Anybody is in the hunt, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, that was like the NCAA bracket form, but everybody makes the finals. That's one thing that's, to me, has got to change a little bit. Everybody's got a chance to win it. The teams that have won it coming in, especially Nashville the first year, they were the last team expected to win, and they had all their stuff together at the finals and ended up winning it. So to me, like, it should be weighted more towards the regular season because that's the grind of it. All the money's weighted at the finals.
Yeah, and there is bull riding's a little different. It's nobody's playing defense really. No. There are some psychological things there that kind of surprise me sometimes. But nobody's playing defense, and really you can get to Vegas. There's an energy there, and all of a sudden you have some guys healthy, and you're the shittiest team all year, and all of a sudden you're riding everything. I mean, there was a point towards the start of the season, I was very concerned that Missouri may never win a game, and I think I could see it in Ross Coleman's face, like, oh crap, And then they ended up pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and it's a stressful deal because there's so many ups and downs with the teams. To be honest with you, coming in, there was so much hype built around us. I didn't think we'd lose a game, and then it wasn't long. We started losing some games, and guys started getting hurt. There's a lot to it. It's more than statistics when it comes to the teams.
Yeah, sure. You guys, and I wrote this down. I wrote the word timing down. You guys just didn't have injuries. It was weird timing of injuries. Like you had all these guys, and it was like Dalen wasn't healthy, and then it like staggered where you guys never could figure out who was in and who was out. Yeah. I found it really an interesting sample of how timing of injuries can affect a whole thing.
Yeah, the first event and the finals, that was the only time that we had our guys together, like our core group of guys that, we were dependent on to have all year. And you could tell it. I mean, there was a lack of confidence in the locker room. There was unsurety of who was getting on what. I mean, it was a difficult season for sure.
Yeah. Because I haven't really talked about it with anybody, but for a team, listen, people can think what they want about PBR teams. It's still like in Vegas, that was good freaking bull ride. And that's what our sport is. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's going to benefit some guys, young guys who they get to be around in the moment. What better thing for a guy like Boudreaux Campbell to go through loss and grief like he did, and to have all you guys with him? What a great thing in that moment.
It was, it was a hard time. It was a hard time for Boudreaux to have to deal with the loss that he did, and we love Boo and did our best at the time to just put our arm around him and let him know that we were there for him. So that's what teammates are for. That's what friends are for, and it kind of led us to tell each other we loved each other more than normal, because you never know.
Yeah. What about young guys? Sage Kimsey, he did this show. Sage is pretty eloquent with media anyway.
Oh yeah.
That guy's good.
Yeah.
And he talked about the hidden kind of behind the scenes thing with the team bull riding that the general public who can kind of bitch about it isn't seeing. And a lot of that is the mentorship for young guys. being an 18-year-old kid, being on a team with world champions. That's going to really pay in the end how to take. I mean, you just got done telling us how you should be taking care of your body right now. That's going to help some young guys.
Yeah, no, I mean that part of the team series is, it's unmatched whenever you have guys that have been around for 10, 11 years that, kind of know a little bit of the ins and outs. And then you have, to me, like a guy like Trace Red that's a young guy coming up that's going to be in my opinion, could be a superstar. And John Crimbers, he's already got the riding part figured out, but doesn't know maybe the longevity of it. There's something that we could all learn. I could learn from John. I could learn from the young guys too. But there's never been a time where a young guy could pick up the phone to a veteran, I feel like, and be comfortable about it and say, hey, like this is what I'm struggling with. What do I need to do? And that's the beauty of the team series to me.
As you were talking, as I finished up talking about Sage Kimzey, it wasn't very long ago, and I have kind of completely forgot about it. Remember, it used to be the PBR and Sage Kimzey, right? Yep. And that's what everybody wanted. Like, Kimzey, he wouldn't do this, and JB this, and Cooper, and then Sage Kimzey was over here. Kind of just, it went away. We didn't really think it was there anyway. If you were on the inside of bull riding, you didn't really care anyway. It kind of disappeared. Were you and Sage friends anyway? Were you pretty good friends before?
Yeah, Sage and I have been friends since we were 15, 16 years old, running around the high school finals, So there was never like this animosity from my side or his side towards one association or the other, PRCA is where I got my start. So I never doubted his ability. I think he's one of the greatest of all time, regardless of whatever association you come from, because there's definitely difficulties over there that we don't deal with, and vice versa. So I don't know. The whole association fight to me has always been null and void.
Man, me too. I remember, because I always saw Sage. Well, I knew him when he was a little kid because I was around his dad.
Yeah.
Always chipper, Ted. But I know Sage since he was really young. And I remember at the NFR grabbing him and saying, I don't care what letters are in front of anything. If you're good, you're good. And Sage was always good. And frankly, it was cool to see, because I love Josh Frost too. He's such a quirky bastard. But yeah, some people just love rodeo. I listen honestly inside in PBR. Well, this guy could come over to teams. I'm like, yeah, but he likes rodeo. Yeah, because there's something you rodeoed. There's something different about it, cool about it.
There is, and that's something to me that I always wanted to go back and do one more time. Go to the yellow buck and shoots, and there's just something about it. That's where, to me, everybody's love for the game started. Especially my age and up. Now I think everybody gets to watch PBR and say, well, they can make their choice then. But yellow buck and shoots, there's always something about it.
I get asked, especially in the last 6 months, greatest moment of your career. I said, well, that's easy. The first time in 1998, I rolled my barrel through that narrow yellow gate. I was soaking wet with sweat and didn't do anything. I just stood in the barrel and chewed gum because I couldn't do anything. There's just something, that's where it all, that's it.
When you ride in the Grand Entry or you hear Texas and it's just, I don't know, there's something about it.
Yeah. I haven't told this story in too long because I think people forget Colby Yates. Colby made it to the NFR.
Yeah.
And, you win the round and you take a victory lap. That's solid about the NFR. You take a victory lap on a horse and you wave your hat. Colby didn't take a victory lap. Do you know that?
I didn't either.
Colby didn't, because he can't ride a horse. Is that you too?
No, I can ride a horse. No, I
why didn't you?
Round. I won the 10th round. So
no victory lap.
That was the world champs round. I guess. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Okay. And I'm trying to think how long they've been doing it, but now in the 10th round, if you win the round, it's the winner of the aggregate of the average that takes the victory lap.
Yeah.
So you got screwed, man.
Yeah. I didn't get to take my victory lap, but I got the buckle.
So Colby stepped out in front of the chutes and tipped his hat. He went and he said, "You guys don't understand. I can't ride a horse at all," and did not take the victory lap. So Gerald Colby Yates did not take the victory lap. There you go. So anyway, I just, of all people, unique Colby Yates, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, as long as we're on the team subject, Jerome Davis, and Jerome Davis has been on here. I said at the very beginning of the first team season, how can you not be positive, ready to go, motivated, and love what you do when your boss is Jerome Davis, right? What how can things be bad?
There's not a nicer guy in the world. You know, even when he's mad, he's still smiling. So it's not like, you know, there's times whenever Jerome wants to be mad and really fire everybody up, but he can't get out of the nice guy deal, which is a great thing. You know, and you want to try so hard for that guy. And I think everybody that comes in the locker room, they've got this, you know, he puts this deal into, I don't know, he makes it so simple for everybody, but he makes you love it and makes you want to do just as good for everybody else. So I don't know. He's a great guy.
He was not too shabby.
No, he was
back in the day.
Great.
You know what's interesting is when he won the world title, 94. It was PRCA World.
I think that was Adriano.
In the PRCA though.
Oh yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, and it was a big deal that this guy from North Carolina, he was the first bull riding champ east of the Mississippi.
Yep.
Now, North Carolina, I mean, that's not that unusual. Yeah, there's some pretty good ones. And I've said these guys from North Carolina, JB Mooney, list the guys from out that way. To me, it all kind of traces back to Jerome Davis.
I think it does, you know, and Jerome's had such an influence on those guys that come over, get on practice bulls. And I think just being around somebody like that as a kid, you know, just feeling their passion for it. And, you know, he's something else. Like he's one of a kind.
Yeah. It's hard to complain.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Wild West Wednesday over there?
I have not. Hard to believe through my entire career, I've never been to Jerome Davis's ranch, the Davis Bucking Bulls, but tell us about Wild West Wednesday.
It's just an open buckle series, but I mean, there's no telling who's going to show up. Boudreaux shows up. You know, there's local guys that'll get on. There's a lot of guys in North Carolina that don't go anywhere that ride good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's any part of the world, but yeah, it's just a fun buckle series. You got kids out there, some sweet mullets, and you know, it's a pretty fun little deal.
Sweet mullets in North Carolina?
Oh yeah.
No way.
There was a little kid out there looked just like Josh Frost, and he'd get out and shake his little mullet around. It was good.
And I've documented it on every one of my shows about Jerome and Tiffany arguing about who's the bigger redneck, you know, and it kind of turns out to be a draw every time. But I don't know, though. Jerome and Tiff, to me, he gets hurt, and I was there when that happened. I remember. And Tiffany tells a story, and Jerome tells a story of he went to her and said, you don't need to stay with me. You deserve to move on with your life. And by God, she did. She said, you know, it's a funny story. Here she is. And I can't imagine them not. You see one, you see the other. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, it's a funny story, but it's also pretty heartwarming. Miss Tiffany, she's as good as they come in my book. You know, she's whatever it is, whatever it takes, she's willing to do it. So we all love her. That's the team mom.
She's an old track star. Speaking of being fast, you and me were pretty fast, but Tiff was quite the sprinter. She's told me stories about that. So
she's never told us that. So we'll have to ask.
You ask her. She was a runner. So there you go. I learned something. See, I not only interview, I teach you something too. Can I say when you announced that you were not going to go to the regular season, but just stick to the teams to make your career a little longer, whatever. I'll let you talk about it. Didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Those of us around you, it doesn't surprise you that we weren't surprised, right?
No, not at all. I've always been vocal about it. I've always been open about the whole deal. There's been years that I'd show up and I didn't want to be there. I didn't have a long enough break, and to me, family's always been the most important thing. If you look back at my career, if I had to miss a baseball game or a football game, I was probably sitting in the locker room checking my phone, seeing how it went.
Yeah.
So to me, that's more the decision why I wanted to take a step back and slow down just a little bit so I could not miss some of those things. But also, there's the part of it that I don't think it's age that is going to slow me down. I think it's the number of bulls. So if I can slow the number of bulls down to 35 rather than 135, I might get 5 to 7 more years where I probably had 2 or 3 left. So
Yeah,
I think,
you're like a barrel racing horse. You only got so many good runs left in you, right? Or you're only given so many good rides or runs. It makes complete sense. I agree.
Kind of like Haley Kinslin's sister, she only runs in when it matters. So that's what we're gonna do. Only do it when it matters.
You're doing TV. You've done TV before, but are you going to alternate on some of those? What's your schedule look like?
I think I've got 18 events, which is quite a few. McBride, he's going to do all the bigger shows and the all the fun ones. So that's fine with me. I think he's definitely earned it. So if I can get in the rotation at any point in time, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, but and for you, hey, we're always rodeo bull riding, always looking for that analyst in the second chair. Craig Hummer's the broadcaster, just like NFL. Joe Buck is the broadcaster. Troy Aikman is the analyst. People go, that Craig Hummer, he's not a cowboy. Yeah, no shit. He's the broadcaster. Do you know that? And maybe you've heard this, like CBS, there's executives that will compare Justin McBride as one of the best sports analysts, not just rodeo, not just bull riding, vocabulary, the way he breaks things down, one of the best analysts they've ever seen. He's a good one to learn from.
No, he definitely is. And that's something that, I was pretty lucky to be able to sit in the booth with him for a half a year and just kind of listen to how he approaches it and pick his brain on it a little bit because, they say he and Tony Romo are very similar in the facts, the way that they deliver things. So there's a lot to learn from McBride.
In and out. Okay. So I'm a big fan. As a matter of fact, the days I do this, I make sure to put it in my truck when I drive here to get me in the right mode. I'm a big fan of the Dan Patrick Show. Okay. I don't know I think he's an amazing interviewer, journalist. It's a conversation. A matter of fact, this morning, as we're taping this, his next guest that I missed was Deion Sanders. And I was like, oh crap, I want to hear that. Yeah. But I remember he had a coach on and he was interviewing. And the coach was thinking that he was going into broadcast. So what Dan would do is he'd ask him a question and he'd hit a stopwatch and he had 15 seconds. Yeah. And so he was teaching him, it's about 15-second sound bites. I don't think people realize that about TV. You need to say what you need to say, in, out, done, right?
Yeah. No, there's definitely just a short window to get in what you want to say. And you'll have somebody in your ear saying, all right, let's get to the bottom of it. So
see, I should have planned ahead with you, ask you about something.
That was the hardest thing to me because, I'd always done the show with McBride. I think there was one show last year and there was a different producer and they said, hey, he's going to be a little bit different, more in your ear. And I was like, okay. Well, I was in the middle of saying something and he came in my ear and said something. I was like, what was that? Completely threw me for a loop. And so there is a learning curve when it comes to doing TV.
The getting countdowns in your ears and direction. I'm not as good getting it in the middle of a sentence. I had to get on even live in the arena, my clowning job. I'd be in a exchange with the announcers and my friend Richard, he always talks about this, was calling the show, and he'd tell me things in my ear. I'm like, I can't hear them. You don't talk to me here. And I started directed traffic.
Yeah.
But I'm like I did one this year. Jason Jaquette, our producer, said something, and I'm like, all right. He said, you answered me out loud.
Yeah.
It's so hard, man.
But it's an adrenaline rush too. Like, to me, it's I'm not gonna say it's similar to riding bulls, but like there's always like this like butterfly feeling. I feel like whenever you're doing something like that, and there's no going back, especially if you're live. So yeah, that's, to me, like that's a cool feeling that even though I'm not getting on bulls, I can still be around the sport and get the butterflies.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't think I got, in the last 25 years, I'd always get a little nervous and excited, but so much confidence in what my job was that I knew if they went, hey, 4 minutes, we're down, go, whatever. I got it.
Yeah.
TV, man. I was like,
yeah, make sure you don't mess up,
I know.
I don't know.
Because when they say, give us 40, you're in the opening, we're going to come to you, speak to this graphic, and you have 45 seconds. As I say, it doesn't sound very hard. 45 seconds that you talk about what's on the board or talk into the camera without stumbling on a word or saying, or, that shit's hard, man.
Yeah. When that red light comes on, there's no going back. I always look at the camera when the red's on. It's like, oh, like, don't mess up. Yeah. What I do with my hands.
Well, and I'd send you a message. I respect, number one, guys who want to take care of themselves and their family. And number two, to have in our modern Western sports world and what the PBR has done, to have that ability to step back and take care of yourself and your family. That's a pretty big deal on how far we've come. And a lot of old fans and old timers will say that's BS. You need to go all year. Man, what a great thing to be able to do it, right?
It is, and I think where we've lost, I'm not gonna say we've lost fans, but we haven't had the same fan base at the team series that we have at the UTB. We've had more of I hate to say it, but a modern fan. We've always had the same rodeo cowboy fans at the UTB, and they're there week in and week out, and we love that. But it's also cool to see the people that have never seen a bull riding or a rodeo or anything show up to an event and be like, man, that was awesome. I can't wait to come back. So to me, it's taking the sport and making it to where guys can last longer. Bulls are getting ranker, less guys are being able to show up and compete, I feel like. And when you're taking out 3/4 of the bulls, hello, Caitlin. And when you're taking out 3/4 of the bulls and being able to take a guy's career and make him last 35 years or till he's 35 years old, that's cool to me. I feel like a guy like Douglas Duncan or Reese Cates, like, man, guys like that.
Hey, that's a fun thought, because I've heard some people do it to go back. I've been around through generations, and we'll be at the World Finals and I'll see somebody and go, Leslie Doyle. I forgot about Leslie Doyle. Tater Porter shows up, and I knew Tater pretty well. We did enterprise stuff together, but that's a good thing to look at. Looking back, when you look at the guys that we knew that, man, they'd get hurt, man, he'd be 92 points and then you wouldn't see him for 2 months. To put them in this position right now, Douglas Duncan, he would have been a great teammate, like a guy where coaches went, let's get Douglas Duncan. People forget about him, don't they?
Yeah. And I mean, to me, he was the guy when I walked in the locker room, like he was the man other than JB. Douglas, if he could have ever stayed healthy, if people forget about the bushwhacker thing, he rode bushwhacker and made him look like a day off. He slapped him, but
I remember.
To me, that's one of the greatest rides of all time. If you take away the slap. So Reese posted something the other day, though. He was putting on a bull riding for a family member, but I thought he was getting on. I messaged him. I said, hey, are you getting back on? He said, not a chance. So
he's ripped too.
Yeah,
Reese looks good.
He stayed in shape.
And there's those guys that they'd make, I look at Reese Cates as a good one. I really liked Reese. By the way, Douglas Duncan, he wasn't just a badass. that he was that's a cool
Oh, yeah.
cat. You just be around Douglas and you just watch him because he was cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was a cool dude.
who marries a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, right? I don't know if they're
Dougie
married.
Fresh.
Got to be Dougie Fresh. That's right. A guy, even a Stormy Wing could make those rides. You match him up with bulls that fit him a little better, all the way back. There's guys, man.
Yeah. And you
hell, throw Mike Lee in there.
You throw Mike in there, you throw Cody Nance in there, because I always say he was the perfect teammate for the Global Cups, because he wanted those bulls that nobody else liked. He was just like, I'll agree. We need a guy like that on the team. So
yeah, that's fun to go back where you could look at a list of, go back 12 years and look at a list of guys that made the PBR World Finals that you go, ooh, you could do it. That's fun. Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. Like I told you, I was proud of you for that. And whatever it takes. I like my last year in the arena, about the middle of March, I think you need to give this a rest as much as body. And Absolutely. If I think that in my job, I know it's the same for you guys, but with the teams and everything, and I worked through the summer because for years I committed to the smaller ones. Middle of March last year, when I was pooped out and burned out, I looked and I had been to 37 different towns, different cities in the calendar year from March to March. And I went, too much. 55 years old. And I can look back now. I'm hot and cold on my career a little bit of, I should have done it a little different. I should have taken care of myself a little better.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like March is always a time for us that it either makes the rest of the year, one way or the other. But I feel like I'm as good as anybody at the beginning of the year, and then whenever I have a break towards the end.
Yeah.
But in the middle there, it's just, I don't know.
March.
I'm ready to go.
I went somewhere. I went somewhere from and that includes, I was at the NFR for 2 weeks, but there was events during that, from Thanksgiving to the middle of May to the end of the World Finals. I was somewhere every single weekend.
Yeah. It weighs on you.
Yeah. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I don't do that shit for free, but still, and my girls, I missed a lot. And with Mac, I can tell you're doing the wrong thing, because I have a lot of regrets on family stuff. So I don't take that lightly. Okay. So speaking of going somewhere, see that? Same.
Oh yeah.
That we just talked about that middle of March, the UTB structure is a grind. People say the season's not long enough, you can't crown a world champion. Really, event wise, it's not much less, couple events less. But it is a grind, a little different. What's the deal? Guys can take 3 events off. Now, is it 3 where you can designate, I'm taking that off, except for New York City, Sacramento, Albuquerque, I think.
Yep. Yeah, all
Am
the
I
majors.
right?
Yep.
Am I right?
Yep. Yeah. So you can take 3 events off. Say if you want to take the first few weekends off. I mean, there's obviously a ranking on. They can't just let everybody take off the same weekend. But say if Jose wanted to take off until January, it's a good possibility. He kind of did something similar to that last year, but it gives guys a weekend to say, hey, you know what? Last weekend didn't go as planned. Let me take a breather and kind of recoup. So I think that's a great thing. PBR starting to realize, Sean and PBR, they're starting to realize that guys can't just go week in and week out without having a little break every now and then. So there's a reason.
Is recoup? Is it a recoup? Is it?
To me, it is. Like you're able to
that's named after you. I'm going to recoup. You take weekends off all the time, like recoup, man.
No, I mean it's just it. You look at other sports, especially contact sports. They don't play football year round. They have 16, 17 games, and that's it. And that's the reason. Like they have to be able to allow their time to, get their body and their mind back.
Yeah, it kills me about rodeo bull riding when our season, and listen, PBR has been trying for 15 years to make it an actual season. I've been around, November to May. Amazing how mad bull riding fans get when you just don't ride all year, take that break. Anger about teams. Like, we still have a regular season. Like, it's amazing how mad bull riding makes people, almost like college football. People just lose their minds, man.
We've got passionate fans. I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But
For sure.
it's a grind for everybody, and the fans, I feel like sometimes they're so used to turning on their TV and being able to watch bull riding. Well, yeah, I'm with you, but at the same time, like from November to December, it's great to just be able to like spend time with family and for me go hunting. Like that's a big thing. So like I've got to have a life outside of bull riding other than just putting my hand in the rope.
So how do you decide? Okay, I get you and me. We get 3 events. First of all, I would think you evaluate going into the start of the season how you feel, right?
Yeah.
Would you look at it and plan ahead and circle maybe weekends that you're shooting for where you think you would take a weekend off? How do you think guys are doing this right now?
To me, like the way I would approach it is looking at the time that the majors are, because they're obviously more points, more money. I'd want to take maybe the weekend off before that. And that way I have a little bit of, edge on everybody. My body's feeling good. And then there's also the weekends that, say Eugene, Oregon or something like that, that's way out there for me. Like I would take that one off. But everybody's going to have a separate approach at it. But to me, the major thing would be the majors. I would want to make sure that I was healthy before then. And, especially around the holidays, so I'd probably have one off somewhere between November and December, and then one right before New York City, and then probably one before Albuquerque.
You could time both. You get one during the holiday season, and that would be kind of right before New York City. And then, because those majors aren't an option. So you want to make sure they're worth a lot. So you want to make sure you're good there. So I'm going to pay attention. It'll be interesting to see if there's several guys timing that way.
I'm looking forward to that. And they also have a kind of a new thing where, say a veteran, say Silvano, wanted to take 10 events off, or not 10 events off, or just go to 6 events throughout the year, because he's been loyal to the PBR forever. And I think that that's something, to me, speaks volumes about the PBR now. It's taken a long time to get there, but they're showing loyalty to him, saying, hey, if you want to take off and go do this for 6 months, come back to the last 6 events and make the finals, you earned it. So I think that's really cool.
So there's some seniority, but you've established some seniority where you get privileges other guys don't.
Yeah, and I mean there's definitely a tough criteria to be able to make it there. But there is, to me, that's a cool part about it. If you're a veteran in the sport and you've earned it, that's something that we've all looked forward to.
I like Silvano Alves better now than I have in his whole career. I think that guy makes me laugh. Yeah. Like, I you know what I give him crap about, that he's made a living pretending he doesn't speak English. Like he got out of more interviews and more appearances pretending he didn't speak English than anybody alive. And he just giggles about it. He's laughs.
It's not a bad thing. I mean,
some days, there's always little things, people always ask us about people. What's this guy, JB, I want my kid to be just like him. Do you? All the inside stuff. I can tell people this about you. It's not some big hidden secret, because I think people know it a little better. But I remember when I saw you the first time, like get pissed at a judge for putting you on the clock, and I went, holy crap, that Coop, he's pissed. Yeah. Like you got a little switch right there, don't you?
I do. I'm not proud of it at times, but other times I feel like you can't just lay down and take it. You've got to be able to speak your mind, and especially as I get older, there's only a short window of time that I can do what I can do. So got to make sure I get everything out of it.
I got a little switch right there too.
Yeah.
It's gone in the arena working, and I'll go up to somebody. There's a reason baseball players do this when they talk, and I'll do it, and then, hey, how you doing? Before I let you go, Unleash the Beast season 2024. The one real cool thing coming out of teams is to go, okay, what are all those Texas Rattlers How are they going to look in the regular season?
Yeah.
Because that was a cool team. That was a really, even you being on another team, that was a cool team. Just the way they conducted themselves. I'm kind of a Cody Lambert fan, and a Cage Swore, his assistant coach. I like those guys. Looking ahead to this regular season coming up, anybody stand out that you think? There's always the usual suspects that are going to make a run at a world title. We know how Jose rides. Joao is going to ride a whole bunch in a row and then buck off a bunch in a row. Anybody, what do you see coming up?
Casio to me he's probably the guy that stands out the most as far as coming through the team deal and being really his first real UTB season. But then you've also got guys like Daniel Keeping and Brady Rudolph that really stepped up for their team this year. And you're going to wonder if it's going to translate into their UTB season, because you don't get to pick your bulls in the UTB season. You don't have one of the greatest of all time as far as knowing what bulls are, picking your bulls. So to me, like, that's where a lot of this comes into play. But I do hope that they are successful, because it makes the story that much better. You took guys that were good and on the bubble of making the finals, and then if they could kind of step up and be a top 5 guy or win a world championship, that really proves that teams is transforming guys into top players.
Freaking Casio Diaz is good.
He's a dog.
Because he didn't listen, J-Dub, he didn't have this consistent deal. Like Cody Lambert took and said it out loud. I take really good care of Joao Ricardo Vieira.
Yeah.
I set him up for success to let the other guys see that.
Yeah.
Casio he rode every different kind of bull. That guy, he impressed me. That guy, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time kind of nitpicking him when he was in Brazil. Talked to him on the phone. He was a guy that he was actually wearing a Carolina Cowboys jersey all last year. Like, this is a guy that we thought we were so excited about it. And everybody you talked to said he's just, he's going to do whatever you tell him to do. He's excited, and he's going to step up and do his job. Well, they ended up taking him right before we could get him, but that was a great pick. And, he's a funny guy too. He's got suspenders on everywhere you see him.
Gary Toole. So we did some interviews, with Matt West and Kate Harrison, and I met, with somebody. Were you in on ours? Were you with ours, or who'd we have from Carolina? I can't remember. Anyway.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
But we had Casio Diaz and Wingson De Silva. Like, two good ones to send in to interview. Neither of them speak English. But we are asking about the suspenders, and he's trying to say this name. And he goes, "Oh, hold on." And he showed it was Gary Toole. An FR bull rider, used to wear suspenders. He saw him on YouTube and thought it was cool. Like,
that's awesome.
I thought it was funny. Okay. The big talk though, the guy who won all those Challenger events, Paulo Crimber's son, John Crimber. He's a little guy. Jess Lockwood was little. Jess Lockwood actually grew about 5 inches when he was about 18. People have no idea how small he was. John's a little guy. He's been winning Challenger events. Does he hold up against the bulls he's going to get on?
He does. Yeah. John to me he's got a small build, but he's also super strong. He's dedicated. I don't think there's another 18-year-old that's more dedicated than John right now. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's been getting on bulls of this caliber for quite some time and with no problems whatsoever. So I think the world championship is going to come down to John, Jose, and I don't know. There's going to be a dark horse in there, so I'm going to say Casio.
All right. Write it down. Write that down. I like it. Yeah, I like John Crimber. You know what people forget? How good his dad was. Paulo Crimber. Paulo Crimber could ride a lot of bulls. He was good, man.
He was great. And his work ethic too. Like, if you ever sit down and talk to Paulo about like what he used to do, it was like 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups. Like, it was extensive. And I think John's kind of fallen into that as well.
Yeah, he's a good kid too. Yeah, that helps. That makes me a fan when they're good kids. So, sure. Well, I'm proud of you for, I like seeing you. There's always those guys that, and then there's always I always seek guys like you out and come and BS. You let us old guys kind of hang out, make us
Now
feel.
I'm becoming the old guy, so we're gonna go seek out
Yeah.
some John Cribbers to talk to.
But I always appreciate you always get right back to me and always willing to do this. I know you don't do a lot of it, so I appreciate it. Good to see you, man. Always.
Yeah, good to see you. Appreciate you having me.
You bet.